round 4 of Season 7 brings us to the scene of round 22 of the 2022 Formula 1 season in the Yas Marina circuit for the latest evening of Formula Racing League action. 5.5 kilometres of racetrack are ahead of the drivers tonight at an average speed of around 201 kilometres per hour, spanning 18 minutes of qualifying and 29 laps of racing this evening. We have seen plenty of drama over the course of the opening 3 rounds of the season so far, and on what is still a relatively fresh track layout having been introduced last year, Yas Island is destined to play host to some more intriguing action tonight. My name is Rob Kirsch. I'll be guiding you through an evening of action which sees Carlos enter as our championship leader, as one of the 3 winners in as many races of the season so far. It's been a brilliant start to Season 7 in Tier 2. And I will just say massive apologies in advance for any coughing that you may hear over the course of the stream. One of those horrible winter colds has gone and caught me today or this week, and so that is the reason you'll be hearing a little bit of that. 16 drivers in the lobby to start round number 4. It was looking like 18 actually at the start of the day, but unfortunately we've lost a couple heading in to the race. It's a delayed start again for those who might be wondering why we haven't started at 8 o'clock tonight. We just had to wait for England to finish beating Wales by 3-0 in the World Cup, sending Gareth Bale and co back home to the UK. No smugness there whatsoever at that result. So the drivers heading out onto the racetrack in qualifying. Somewhat crucially, not so much really. We have these kind of dark conditions straight away, so the track temperature is going to be pretty much the same throughout qualifying from the start of it to the end of it. Of course, theoretically and logically, when you consider all the factors, if the session started in sunnier conditions and then transitioned into darker ones, or nighttime conditions, that's not really a saying, is it? But you know what I mean. You would expect the track to get a little bit worse, a little bit slower as the grip goes away, but then to counteract that, of course, you do end up with cars going round the circuit, putting more rubber down and just generally heating up the track temperature anyway, and so that kind of just ends up working to the contrary. Exactly what exactly what sort of an effect that has, don't know really. And it's difficult to really find that out in qualifying usually as well, because the fastest lap time in Q1 isn't going to be as fast as the fastest lap time in Q3, unless it's raining, because of the fact that the drivers aren't pushing as hard in Q1 as they are in Q3 anyway, and so it's difficult to really get that comparison either way. If we're honest, Swenny then has started his first flying lap of the session so far. We've got pretty much all the drivers out on track now. Jay Hartnell and Jack Bowie are still in the pits at the moment. Matty G has just joined the session actually, and so provided he's allowed in, we'll get 17 drivers setting a lap time in qualifying, and then hopefully of course taking part in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix as well for round number 4 this evening. Swinney then on the exit heads down the DRS, not a DRS straight so much, more of a DRS kink, and that's a double overtaking spot as well really, because you've got the chicane down at turns 6 and 7, and then as you transition through turn 8 with the DRS open, you've then got another chance heading in to the long sweeping left-hander on turn number 9 as well. That's 10, 11 and 12 for Swenny, unchanged really. You've got 2 flat-out right-handers, and then you've got obviously a braking zone directly following that. Swenny around the final corner for Alfa Romeo sets the first lap time of the session so far, 1:26.2 from the Alfa Romeo man, and so that for him is beaten instantly actually by Butzels in the Haas, and so beats that on a 1:24.7. Kaizen puts himself into P3 for Aston Martin because Lorenzo has just gone and taken top spot for Alfa Romeo. So He is now the fastest out on track. He's set the quickest lap time so far, but there is plenty, of course, plenty of time left in this session yet. And so, as we continue then running through the session, still got a lot of drivers out the 7 lap times. Becco, by the way, didn't actually. He said it's his first time playing on this track on F122, racing on this track on F122. He's got into P2 on a 124.6, but that 124.5 from Lorenzo still has him up in P1 at the moment. BV raced for Ferrari last week, now in the Red Bull. He's gone P4 on a 125.1. Fake Scouser beats that on a 125.0 for Alpine. So puts himself snugly into that top 5. Empajandro has had his lap time invalidated for AlphaTauri. Pimis is in P13 in the second Alpine, 126.6 from him. So just over a second separating the fastest lap time and what is so far the slowest lap time of the session. But again, plenty of time left in the session yet. Matty G for Williams has now headed out onto the circuit. A slightly late arrival to the session. He's called me optimistic that he'll actually set a lap time in this session. We believe in you, Matt. You can do it. Through then the final sector comes the Williams driver, the infamous turn 14, where Nicholas Latifi had a little bit of an effect on the title race last season. A little bit. Ours is on a postcard for what happened next. I would say it continues to be one of the leading topics of Formula 1 to this day. Dreamer in P8 for McLaren. He is how far off is he? 125.4, so about 9/10 of a second off the pace of the AlphaTauri driver Lorenzo out front. Really different final sector this through turns 13 and 14. It's a lot more open. Oh, and that's a lot more spinny for Dreamer than he would have liked on his in lap. Actually, it wasn't even a flying lap, I don't think, that he was on. So he's just doing a few donuts. It's that's quite a few hundred meters away from where the celebratory donuts were completed at the end of the season. But anyway, back into the pits he comes. He'll discard those tyres. He won't need those anymore. Carlos has gone into P9 for Mercedes, the championship leader, as we mentioned, coming into tonight. And so for him, you rather feel as though he will be setting a better lap time than that between now and the end of the session. Matty G for Williams makes his way through 10, 11 and 12 and just runs off the circuit and invalidates his lap time as a result as he makes his way through 13 and 14, which, as I was saying before, Dreamer interrupted by spinning. It's just so much quicker, so much more open, that section of corners. 13 has been brought in a lot more, so it's not, you don't have to kind of go as far out to the right as you used to. It's a lot more of an open corner. It's been reprofiled so that you can just take a bit more speed going into the apex, and you can just stay a lot more snug on the exit of turn 12 as well, which makes the lap time a lot quicker. And the same has happened as well with turn 14, so you don't really have to brake too much for that corner, and then it's pretty much flat out through 15 heading into turn 16 because that's been reprofiled as well. As of last year's Grand Prix, it did have an effect on the circuit. The fact that the final sector isn't as downforce orientated anymore as it was previously definitely does make a big difference to the cars. It favours the cars with a bit more power, favours the cars that are a little bit more set up for straight line speed, which is, I mean, part of the reason why Red Bull have done a lot better in the last couple of years. Having said that, Max Verstappen did take the pole and the win in 2020 for Red Bull. Hat-trick of wins in Abu Dhabi for him. And I mean, these changes aren't to say that the circuit wasn't straight line speed orientated in the first place, because it was. It required a lot of good pace on the straights, but it's just even more so now in that final sector. Is essentially the gist of it. But it doesn't change the entire characteristics of the circuit in that sense. It is still a track that you need a lot of good engine performance at, and a good chassis down the straights. But yeah, that final sector just makes it a little bit more dependent on that as BV makes his way through towards turn 8. Flat out turn 8 with DRS open. And then turn 9, which used to be a 3 apex chicane, basically, as Nakedley retires from the session for McLaren, and he has crashed through turn 3, I believe that is, on the exit of turn 2 going into 3, and he's crashed, I think, on pit exit, which is an interesting one. Yeah, I'm not really too sure. Not 100% sure where he's lost it, but his car has now disappeared anyway. I know where he's lost it. I don't know how or in what kind of, scenario that was. But anyway, into P2 has gone BV for Red Bull, Jack Bowie's teammate this evening. 124.2 from him, so it's so close to Becco's lap time out front now for Ferrari, in amongst all of that kind of, that sort of very loose conversation going on. Becco's taken P1, 0.3 of a second now ahead of Lorenzo, with BV sandwiched in between them, only just about 0.003 of a second slower than the Ferrari. Kaisen's on another lap here for Aston Martin, or he has just set another lap at least. He's gone quicker than his previous best by a good chunk actually. So up to P7 goes the Aston Martin. Dreamer is on a lap currently, but he is a little bit down in the middle sector, only just about 0.5 of a second down, so certainly more time that he can find in this final sector. In towards the final couple of corners he goes, keeps the car pointing in the right direction as he rounds the final turn, crosses the line, does improve by 0.3 of a second, found some really good time in that final sector, did Dreamer, and up to P6 then goes the McLaren as a result of that. Matty G on another lap now for Williams, had his last one invalidated because he went off at turns 10, 11 and 12 and loses the back end. He will set a lap time with that. It's 126.8 from Matty G as he crosses the line backwards. It's clearly not the best lap time he'll set tonight. But yeah, that tickled me. That was a good finish. Well, not a good finish to the lap, an entertaining finish to the lap from Matty G, but sadly not a quick one as it turned out. Empajandro crosses the line. He goes 11th now for AlphaTauri. His teammate Lorenzo in P3 still, and he, along with Becco and BB up there, preparing for their final lap, their final runs in qualifying to try and grab pole position. Lorenzo has out-qualified Empajandro in both times that they've joined each other at the AlphaTauri team so far this season. Nevi goes P4 for Williams. Slots in a couple of tenths behind Lorenzo and only just ahead of Butzel's in the Haas. So that will be quite an entertaining finish, I think, to qualifying this. Not just for pole position, but for the couple of positions below that as well. And I don't want to say that the pole position will be determined by invalidated lap times. I don't think it will be, but it's a possibility for sure. Jack Bowie has gone P7 now for Red Bull. 125.0 from him. So if he can find just a little bit of an improvement, he can potentially climb up above Fake Scouts, and maybe climb up above Nivi and Butzel's. I mean, he's got 0.3 of a second to make up on those guys, and that there on that lap was his third lap on soft tyres, and so logic would suggest that provided he can come into the pits, put another set of tyres on and get the warm-up he needs, that's crucial, get the right warm-up on the tyres afterwards, he should actually be okay. Oh, and Jay Hartnell spins for Haas, and I think that's just as he was about to finish a lap as well, his first lap of the session, and he spun it at the penultimate corner of the lap. That's a bummer for him. Mystery begins a lap time now for Alfa Romeo. What was it? 124.8 for him that he is currently on. So he's one of those really. It's climbed up to P6, and yeah, he's excuse me, just just finished the lap, I should say. Has Mystery. And so he's right in there as well in terms of that battle for potentially, where are we? Lorenzo 124.5, potentially P3. I think pole might just be a bit of a stretch, considering that it's a 124.2 for Becco and BV. I think also worth considering as well that Lorenzo's lap time was set quite a while ago, and so it's not necessarily a given that he's going to stay in P3. He could probably improve as the track improves by at least 0.3 of a second as Becco makes his way down towards turn 6 now for Ferrari. Brakes as late as he possibly dares to into the apex of 7 and keeps the revs high through turn 7. You get some drivers who prefer to short shift going into turn 7 to limit the revs and limit the wheel spin out of the exit, but Becco being brave, really choosing to use the revs and get the car turned in, get the nose pointed into turn 7. He is up on his previous best lap time so far is Becco, and if he can put together a solid final sector here, he will improve on his previous lap time and extend his advantage in what is provisional pole position at the moment. In towards the final 2 corners of the lap then comes Becco through turn number 16 for the Ferrari down the hill, 124.0 to set the fastest lap of the session so far. BV is on an out lap. Butzells has retired from the session for Haas. And you just sort of wonder whether the drivers who are heading out later are going to end up with a bit more of an advantage in terms of where the track is grip-wise. I guess we'll find out. Dreamer's just had a very nice slipstream down towards turn 6. He did choose to short shift through turn 7. So that's a slight variation that you sometimes get with drivers. Some of them are just a little bit more comfortable with the back end to be able to use the revs. Some of them will prefer to just short shift and limit those revs. I guess there isn't really a wrong or a right way to do it. It's just kind of what the driver's more comfortable with and what they feel is quicker for them. As Dreamer in P9, he is up at the moment by 0.4 of a second on his previous best through the middle sector, and that's a big improvement. That if he can keep it up, I mean, he could potentially climb into the top 4, top 3 here, maybe. Lorenzo's on an outlap for AlphaTauri. He's going to be looking to displace Becco in pole position. Round the final corner then comes Dreamer, and it is P4. That's a really good lap from him. Massive lap time from Dreamer there. BV begins his final lap of the session. Makes his way down towards turn 5. What's this first sector like? He's down by over 0.2 of a second is BV. So he needs to find some mega improvements in the final couple of sectors here in order to displace Becco at the top of the timing sheets. Lorenzo has just begun, he's on a flying lap. He's about to, well, no, he's going to come to the end of it and then he'll start another one because he's backed out of this one. Didn't feel as though that was a good enough. Is that showing? It was showing 11 minutes. It's a 124.5. Is what it's being shown as. I don't know why it was coming up as 11 minutes on the timing screens. Well done, EA. So he has now started what will be his final flying lap. Kaizen into P3 now for Aston Martin. So Lorenzo prospectively will start P4. BV is 0.8 of a second down on his previous best. So he's made some gains in the middle sector compared to the first, but is it going to be enough in the final sector here for him to improve and maybe take pole position? It's going to take some doing, and across the line, no, it's not enough. He is down in the end by about 0.5. Couldn't quite make up the ground that he lost, and Lorenzo's had his lap time invalidated, and that's going to do for him in terms of his bid for pole position. Nivi has backed out of his final flying run. Fake Scouser is still out there, and he is 2.5 up on his previous best lap time, which at the moment might just be enough to send him into the top 5, maybe top 4, depending on how he does in this final sector here. So Lorenzo, who was on provisional pole position not too long ago, could end up falling down to P5, depending on Fake Scouser's end to the lap here. Round the final corner then he comes. Oh, spins into the wall on the exit, and well, that is how that lap time is going to finish. That's how his qualifying is going to finish as well. Swinney climbs up to P5 at the end of the session, so Dreamer will start the race in P6. Carlos is up on his previous best. Jay Hartnell spun again, and that's going to be him last on the grid, having not set a lap time in qualifying. Carlos here, 125.4 at the moment. What's this good enough for? It's good enough for P6. That's a good improvement, that, for the Mercedes. And he will start the race up in 6th position with Jay Hartnell, sadly, going for another little adventure in his Haas car. And that then is him. P17 and last on the grid for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Kaizen, no, he's backed out of his last run for Aston Martin. And so that is Becco on pole position for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. 124.0 from the Ferrari. He claims his 3rd pole of Season 7 in Tier 2 BV, settling for 2nd place for Red Bull. A couple of tenths behind. We almost broke into the 123.9s, not quite. Becco was saying earlier, it's his first time driving this circuit on this game. I would say he's done pretty well so far. He's put that Ferrari on pole position for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, round number 4 of Season 7 in the Formula Racing League. Kaizen climbing up to 3rd at the end. Lorenzo was on provisional pole for a while. He'll start 4th. Swinney climbing to 5th. Carlos climbing to 6th. Big improvements from them at the end of the session. Dreamer ends up in P7. Jack Bowie down in 10th for Red Bull at the end of all of that. Fake Scouser looked as though he was going to climb into the top 10. Spun though in the final corner of his final lap, and that did really for his attempt at getting pole this evening. But it is Becco in P1, BV takes 2nd, Kaizen in P3, Lorenzo in 4th, Swinney P5, Carlos P6. Dreamer will start this race 7th for McLaren. Nivi in 8th place in the Williams, but Sells in 9th for Haas. Jack Bowie rounds out the top 10. Mystery 11th, Fake Scouser 12th, Pimis in 13th, Embajadro starts this race 14th for AlphaTauri. Kelly in P15 in the McLaren. Matty G 16th place, and Jay Hartnell, he did set a lap right at the end after numerous spins, but sadly 19.3 seconds off the pace. That lap time not representative of the Monaco Grand Prix winner's true pace. Just struggled to complete a lap basically in qualifying. We'll see better from him in the race, I'm sure, and that race is going to begin in the not too distant future. And it was a very interesting race in Abu Dhabi. If you cast your minds back to 1 week ago, there was a lot of safety cars, and it was really interrupted. The Belgian Grand Prix was so interrupted by safety cars, it was impossible for any drivers to really gain any rhythm or momentum during the race, because there was always a safety car coming out 1 or 2 laps after the race started, following an incident and then another one. So we hope for less incidents here tonight. We hope for some good clean racing in Abu Dhabi on what has been a bit of a Red Bull circuit over the years. Sebastian Vettel won the first ever race here for Red Bull in 2009. That win secured 2nd in the championship over Rubens Barrichello, and behind Jenson Button, who had already wrapped up the title in Brazil before that. And Red Bull also the last winners of this race. Max Verstappen this year, having also won the race last year and in 2020 as well. 2 wins in between that. The 2010 Grand Prix sealed Sebastian Vettel's first ever championship in Red Bull colours. He won again in 2013. One of 8 or 9, 8 consecutive victories for Sebastian Vettel in 2013. Also tied with Michael Schumacher for 13 race wins that year. But Max Verstappen beat that this season, won 15 Grand Prix in the 2022 campaign. Of course, you know, a little bit, let's say a little bit skewed, that one, maybe, just a tiny bit, because of the fact that there are more races now than there were before. which naturally I think just makes things not easier for the drivers. It's not like winning a race is easy, but definitely something that Verstappen, it was, I think, a bit more humble than people give him credit for. I'd probably say as well that he would probably point you in that direction as well, let's say. Feel free to disagree with any of that. People will, that is for sure. On the formation lap then, 7, 8, 9 Grand Prix wins in a row for Sebastian Vettel. I was right. Or was I right? Was it 8? Did I say 8 or 9? Anyway, it's 9 consecutive wins for Sebastian Vettel in 2013. I was transfixed by that stat. I just had to make absolutely sure that it was the right one. It was indeed 9 consecutive wins for Seb Vettel at the end of the 2013 season, I should say. It did look as though Verstappen was potentially going to upset that this year, but in the end, the Singapore Grand Prix put pay to his efforts to do that. Right, Becco starting on the mediums here for Ferrari, who have never won in Abu Dhabi before. Charles Leclerc second place in 2022. The best finish that they've had at this circuit. They've never had much luck actually here, Ferrari. Vitaly Petrov holding up Fernando Alonso for most of the 2010 race. Spaniard just couldn't get past him, came into that weekend leading the World Championship with Mark Webber in second place, but stuck behind the Renault for so long, prevented him from gaining the time he needed to stop Vettel winning his first world title. And that was actually the only time that season Vettel had led the World Championship, was at that final race when he crossed the line and won it in that remarkable 2010 season. Ridiculous stuff. Anyway, up to the grid then come the drivers. BV on the softs behind Becco. We have got Lorenzo, Carlos and Jay Hartnell starting on hard, so they'll be hoping, as usual really, that we don't get an early safety car in this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It's a bit of a range of strategy decisions coming into this race, and is that going to play a part? Becco so far this season, 2 pole positions to his name, yet to win a race. Can he do so now? The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is underway. It's a solid start from Becco by the looks of it. It's also a good start by Lorenzo up towards turn 1. He has to brake early. That allows Kaizen to go round the outside of him. And Becco's got a bit wide through turn 1, but manages to recover. Good start then by Kaizen. Way off the track has gone Carlos, as he now rejoins and falls back down into 7th place for Mercedes, with Swinney and Dreamer taking advantage of that and getting ahead of him. Fakes Gauss has lost some ground off the start, and he now is battling with Pimis as they go in towards turn 5. The 2 Alpines, and wide with them goes the... who was that? Was that Jack Bowie going wide? It was. In the Red Bull. So he's lost a lot of... Has he lost his front wing? He has. That's why. That's why he was going wide at turn number 5. And down the inside of him then goes Fake Scouser. And Jack Bowie's going to do well to keep this on the racetrack. And he's kind of holding up the Alpines as a result of that. There's not an awful lot you can do really with damage. And Kaiser's lost a couple of positions now for Aston Martin. Lorenzo and Swinney have got past him. Looks like there's a bit of contact actually between Kaiser and the McLaren Dreamer behind him. BV gets past Becco for the lead of the race. So the Red Bull is ahead of the Ferrari. That's crucial on the opening lap. He's on the soft tyres as BV. So he's got to create a gap. Oh, Becco spins for Ferrari. And that gap is just become a little bit easier to create over the Ferrari as he knocks over a bollard on his way back on. That's a nightmare start for him. It wasn't an initial good getaway, but he's lost the lead to BV, and then he's lost it on the exit of turn 13, and that sadly is him out of the lead, potentially out of the running for the win, but there's plenty of time to go in this one yet. Butzel's, Matty G, Empajandro, Jack Bowie and McKedley all into the pits. I would assume that all of those are for front wing changes. Indeed they are. Of course we know Jack Bowie's is because we saw him without any front wing at all on his car in the opening exchanges. So BV now leads by 3 seconds from Lorenzo, who is under a bit of pressure from Swinney. There's no DRS just yet. That gets enabled on lap 3. Kaiser now down the inside of Swinney as they head into turn 6 and now through 7. Swinney back down the inside. Kaiser leaves in space. Should have a better exit, and he does indeed to get back past. However, Swinny's got the slipstream. He tries to go to the outside at turn 8. Dreamer is looking lively behind them as well. And Kaizen will defend the inside going into turn 9. Can Swinny hold on? Be a great move if he can. He's still going. Is Swinny, and they're still wheel to wheel as they head in towards 10, 11 and 12. That's a really good move that by Swinny around the outside of turn 9. But then he's gone off the circuit at turn 12, and Dreamer will get past him as a result. Now Mystery's putting his teammate under pressure after all of that. Lorenzo has escaped as a result. Dreamer says thanks very much, and he puts himself up into P4. Wide goes Mystery as he looks to get past his teammate, and behind them Fake Scouser and Carlos Killer are looking to gain some positions as well, with Pimis and then Jay Hartnell rounding out the top 10. Matty G's got a penalty in the opening couple of laps. On to lap 3. DRS is now enabled, so we're going to see a lot of racing through in towards turn 6 and then towards turn 9 as well. But we've already seen some racing in other parts of the racetrack as well. In the opening exchanges, then Behandro gets past Nivi, and he climbs then to P12 in the Alpha Tauri. Meanwhile, Dreamer, having just gained the position of Swinny, is in danger of losing it again. The McLaren does have DRS, that's going to help him. Swinny breaks really late, and will he keep it on the racetrack? He will, but Mystery now as a result is going to get back ahead after Dreamer squeezes back past. A really good slipstream there for Mystery, who not only gets past Swinny but also gets past Dreamer. Swinny now passes Dreamer as well, as potentially does Fake Scouser going in towards turn 9. Down the inside he goes. Dreamer has just lost 3 positions in one straight as he looks to try and get back past Fake Scouser. Goes to the outside, heading in towards turn 12. Carlos Killer now looking to take a position away from the Mercedes-powered McLaren. So Dreamer defended initially his position really well from Swinny for P4, but ended up falling behind Swinny, Mystery and Fake Scouser. Wide has gone Mystery through the final corner. Swinny now putting his teammate under pressure down the home straight in towards turn 1. Mystery keeps the position for now, but he's compromised his run up through turns 2 and 3. Fake Scouser all over the back of Swinny. Mystery's under a lot of pressure from a lot of cars here as Swinny goes to the outside, heading in towards the 5th corner of the racetrack, and Swinny will be able to cut back in and get a good exit heading on to the back straight. I think Butzel's has made a mistake somewhere because he's lost the position to manage. He's losing a lot of time now as here comes Swinny down towards turn 6, gets past his teammate. Fake Scouser having a look as well. He also gets past Mystery. He might even have a look at getting past Swinny as well. Around the outside of turn 6, he's got the inside for turn 7. Then he gets a bit caught up on the curb. Dreamer's back into play as a result of that, because that's all held Mystery up. Carlos is right behind this battle as well, looking to get in on it. Fake Scouser will just about, I think, stay ahead. Dreamer manages to get ahead of Mystery. Carlos Killer, as Dreamer goes wide actually, so Mystery might just have a chance, but potentially does indeed get back ahead. But then Dreamer's got his nose in front as they head into 11, 12 and 13. Then there's contact, and round goes the McLaren of Dreamer, and that really was quite inevitable. They were getting so dicey into 10, 11 and 12, and that was coming, I'm afraid. And BV has lost the lead. I think he's made a mistake. He's coming to the pits now. I think he's had a spin somewhere because he's just lost the lead. And Lorenzo then into P1 with Kaizen taking P2. So BV, the second driver out front to make a mistake and lose positions. On the medium tyres then goes BV for Red Bull. And so that all leaves Lorenzo potentially on now for his second win of the season. The first repeat winner of the season potentially could be coming our way. Becco and Pimis are side by side through turn 5, and ahead of them Carlos is having a go at getting past Mystery as well. Down towards turn 6, the Mercedes on the inside, the Alfa Romeo on the outside, and Carlos gets in front with Becco staying in front of Pimis. He now is just behind Mystery as he looks to make his way back up the order following his spin on the opening lap of the race. Mystery's not quite done yet with Carlos, who goes defensive. Mystery goes to the outside. Carlos on his hard tyres with Mystery on the softs. Oh, and he's just taken it too far out wide. The rear tyres have said, no, I'm having none of that. And round goes the Alfa Romeo in the end. He was just asking too much of those rear tyres by going that quickly on the outside. Oh, he spins again in towards turn 12, and having just had a spin before that, the last thing the tyres want to do is brake while turning, and unfortunately that has forced him into another spin in this race. Kaizen just behind Lorenzo in this battle now for the lead. He's on the mediums, Lorenzo is on the hards, and there wasn't an early safety car, which does mean that Kaizen is sort of in play here, on strategy at least, to win this race. I think Fake Scouts has had a moment somewhere. He has. He's round at... Where's he gone off? That is at... that's just after turn 3, isn't it? So he spun at turn 3, and that is something that you do see sometimes. Mystery back into the pits then for Alfa Romeo. Matty G's coming as well for the Williams team. Whether this is a scheduled stop or whether this is going to be for a change of front wing, we are about to find out. It is a scheduled stop. He's going to serve a 5-second penalty as well before the team get to work on his car. Kaizen down towards 10, 11 and 12. Hasn't quite got past Lorenzo yet. The AlphaTauri's held on well. Goes a little wide perhaps at turn 12, but nothing too leery. He's got an Aston Martin all over the back of him, heading in towards these final couple of corners. Matt says, where's the safety car and where's his new front wing? So I'm assuming that he was supposed to get a new front wing in his pit stop, but didn't. Not too sure what's happened there. But anyway, through turn 1 come Kaizen and Lorenzo again. And the gap really is about the same as it was last time round, but Lorenzo was able to keep himself in front of the Aston Martin. Got a good run actually last time. Through turn 5 did Lorenzo. Is that going to be the case again? Kaizen with a bit more of a sweeping run through turn 5. Is that going to help him here? With DRS down towards turn 6. He's not really gaining, is he? Lorenzo seems to have a really good setup on the AlphaTauri. He's just not losing any time, is he, on the straight to the Aston Martin, even though Kaizen has DRS. That's got to be quite frustrating for Kaizen, having that advantage down the straight, around about an extra 12 miles an hour, and he's still not really getting close. Down towards turn 9. Is it going to be enough? He dives to the inside. Does Kaizen. Lorenzo will try and hold the outside line, and he does so. It's a very good effect, actually. But they're still wheel-to-wheel in towards 10, 11 and 12. Kaizen switches back and dives down the inside. It's a really good move. Oh, loses the back end, though, on the exit of turn 12. That was a fantastic move from Kaizen. Really played it well, and particularly through turn 12, where if drivers go wheel-to-wheel, you see so many accidents. But he was able to keep it all together. And that's a brilliant move from the Aston Martin. But Lorenzo hasn't really fallen back at all from the now race leader. And so he will do his level best here to get back ahead of the Aston Martin. And the longer he can keep Kaizen engaged in this battle, the better it's going to be, ultimately, for Lorenzo on his hard tyres. Because he should theoretically be on a better tyre towards the end of the Grand Prix. And that'll help him pace-wise over Kaizen. So we've just seen already, he's got some great straight-line speed going on that AlphaTauri, has Lorenzo. Is that going to serve him well here? Not really. And so I think what that says is that it's all about the exit on turn 5, really, isn't it? Lorenzo didn't get a great one last time, and then he got a good one on turn 7. And it's for Lorenzo here. Becco battling away now with Swinney for third position, gets past him going into turn 6, but Swinney now is going to have DRS on the way back through turn 8 and in towards turn 9. To the outside goes the Alfa Romeo with Becco on the inside. That's too wide, surely, yeah, for Swinney, and he might even lose another place to Carlos because of that. He does, he spins whilst trying to collect the car on the outside. Swinney goes for a spin, and that then puts him down to 7th place. Then Bahandra is a good 10 seconds back, although not anymore. He's actually a bit closer now, but Swinney has a bit of time to collect himself and regather that car. So P7 then for the Alfa Romeo. Lorenzo still all over the back of Kaizen. Becco is starting to bring himself back up towards this battle. He's 6.5 seconds behind Lorenzo, which puts him just over 7 seconds behind Kaizen. So despite the mistake early on when he lost the lead to BV, who has since lost the lead because of a spin of his own, he's back in play, really, isn't he, Becco? He's shown some fantastic pace for Ferrari. There is BV. having made a pit stop after that spin. 9th place at the moment for Red Bull. His teammate Jack Bowie in P11. The top 15 score points in each race. Pole position as well grabs a point, so Becco's already got one tonight. Fastest lap also gets a point. Wide goes Nivi. Jack Bowie says thanks and gets past the Williams, heading in towards turn 5. Meanwhile, ahead of them, Ebahandro has now passed Swinny, and that's a DRS move down towards turn 6. He goes wide though, goes a bit deep. Dreamer is out of the race for McLaren, and that will now, I think, be a safety car, which is going to be good news for the likes of Matty G down towards the bottom of the order. That has happened at turn 3-ish, so I think Dreamer's lost it maybe on the exit or on the curb of turn 3, and that ultimately is where he has come a cropper. And so, yeah, into the pits then comes Kaizen, and that, what does that do? Because Lorenzo now, 19 laps to go. Has he got? Is he going to be able to make? Well, he's on mediums, so yes is the answer. But what I'm surprised at is that Kaizen's also gone for mediums. He started this race on mediums, did Kaizen? As far as I'm aware, that's his first stop. So he's now committed to the 2-stop, surely, is Kaizen because of that. I can only assume that Kaizen's thinking here, and he might be quite right, is that Lorenzo is not going to be able to make those mediums go to the end of the race. However, could he have gone onto the hards? Becco's done that, so Becco's thought, well, I can go to the end of this race now. The hards will make it. I can go to the end, and I'll see you guys at the finish line. Will they see him earlier than that, though? Because Kaizen and Lorenzo will both pit. When they do pit, of course, they'll be on much quicker tyres towards the end than Becco will be. Doesn't really matter how well you nurse those tyres, you will end up in a bit of trouble somewhere down the line in terms of grip. So yeah, I think Kaizen has thought that it's one of two things really. He's either thought that the hard tyres can't go to the end, or he's thought that he'd rather cover off Lorenzo than put on a set of hards and go to the end and risk being outpaced at the end by Lorenzo. And then by that same logic, he would then think, well, anybody else that goes onto the hards is not going to be able to make them go to the end, or if they do, they're going to have so little pace towards the end that you can just sort of pick them off. So, I don't know. There's a couple of variations as to the thinking that you could assume is going on there. Matty G comes in the pits for Williams, and he switches on to a set of the hard tyres. He is, as you can see, a long way behind the pack at the moment. Nakedley and Nivi are just about to join the back of that snake. Yeah, I think with where Matty G is, can he make it to... It depends, of course, how long the safety car's out for. I think it's going to be at least one more lap, maybe two. Oh, can he make it to the back of this train here, Matty G? It will be tough. I can't lie, it will be tough. Butsells leaves the session for Haas. He is currently in 13th position for the Haas team, is Butsells. So hopefully he can re-find some connection and get himself back into the session. 9 wins from pole over the years here. And the 14 races that we've had since 2009. So quite a big success rate really for those on pole position. 4 wins from second place over the years, and 1 from outside of the front row. So we've really had a lot of success from positions 1 and 2 at this race since its inception in 2009, with the very unique pit exit as well that is adopted. That design feature It was an expensive one. As Butzel's rejoins, which is good for him. It was expensive, and it was obviously meant to look creative and innovative and, you know, really attractive. But the issue that they very quickly found when they got to the race was that, well, nobody could actually see it, and it's very difficult to mount cameras really in that tunnel. So you can see bits of it, but if you're actually at the race in the grandstands, you can't really see what's going on in there unless you look at one of the TV screens. And another concern, of course, as well, was that if anybody crashes in that part of the pit exit, they're going to cause a safety car instantly. Thankfully, no one's ever crashed yet at that part, but it will happen, I'm sure. Sure it will happen. Bound to at some point. Safety car then will take us around for at least one more lap, and what that is going to mean, I think, is that Matty G will have time now to catch back up to this train. The game will allow him to pretty much go flat out, and then he can just rejoin the back of the train where Nokedli is at the moment. Down then towards turn 5 comes the Mercedes safety car, and this is kind of one of the things at the moment that we were talking about at the very top of qualifying, in that track kind of changes as the session goes on. It gets a bit cooler in terms of the air temperature, and the track temperature naturally decreases a bit as a result of that, but because you've got cars running around with these tyres, they're rubbering in the track surface, it then heats up a little bit as well, as a kind of contrary to that. That's way off the circuit in the background, I think, went Mpahandro for AlphaTauri, very nearly hitting the wall in the process. If he didn't hit it, certainly was very close by the looks of it, to be honest. We've had 5 different winners at this racetrack over the years. Sebastian Vettel being the first, and of course being one of them. Won the first 2 races at this circuit. Lewis Hamilton became the 3rd winner in 2011. Kimi Räikkönen, the famous team radio messages, the 4th in 2012. And Nico Rosberg becoming the 5th in 2015. 6 different winners, I should say. Max Verstappen becoming the 6th winner at the circuit in 2020. Quite an elite group at the moment, or an elite group. It's not the word I was looking for at all. I'll think of the word eventually. I'll think of the word at some point. It might just pop into my head after this race restarts, after the safety car comes back into the pits, and Kaizen then is picking his moment to go for it. Exclusive, that's the word I was looking for. An exclusive club of Grand Prix winners at this circuit. Kaizen looking to become the Season 7 Tier 2 winner tonight for Aston Martin. And away he goes on the restart. Lorenzo in P2. BV in 3rd place behind him. Becco has been brought back into play by the safety car. He's on the hard tyres going to the end of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix tonight. Kaizen, Lorenzo, BV all have another stop to make. Swinny gets past Mpahandro, and Mystery might do the same down towards turn 5 as he goes to the inside of the AlphaTauri, and he does get the move done, although Mpahandro is still right there with him. Pimis is under a bit of pressure from Swinny as they head down towards turn 6. Carlos is having a look at getting past Becco as well. Here comes Swinny. Does he dive to the inside? He does. It's a bit of a late move, and he does get himself in front, and Mystery getting past Fake Scouser. Mpahandro is losing a couple of positions as well now for AlphaTauri. He finds himself on the outside of Fake Scouser going in towards turn 9. The 2 Alfa Romeos are doing battle yet again, and they've got Pimis in there with them. Pimis is on the outside. Both Alphas getting ahead of him. Swinny's ahead and Mystery's ahead as well, but to the inside goes Pimis. There's so nearly contact between himself and Mystery. I don't actually know how there wasn't contact. Fake Scouser now as well to win with his teammate, but Pimis fends him off for the time being, and the 2 Alphas can resume their battle in front of them. Mpahandro fending off Jack Bowie as well for the time being, and out front Lorenzo just behind Kaizen in the battle for the lead of this race. And it is close out front. It's close everywhere you look. With BV threatening behind them as well. Echo naturally isn't gaining too much time in the top three because of the fact that he is on hard tyres, but his race will come to him towards the end of it, you rather feel. But Sells gets past Ed Bahandra down towards turn 5. The AlphaTauri really is losing a lot of positions here, isn't he? But he gets back wheel to wheel again with the Haas down towards turn 6. He does get his nose in front for now. He's going to have to finish the move under braking to the inside. Really good bit of bravery there from Butzells to hold on round the outside, and he stays in front of the AlphaTauri. Meanwhile, ahead of them, Pimis and Fake Scouser are crossing swords again. Fake Scouser dives to the inside going into turn 9, and his teammate will try and hold on round the outside. Oh, and he's taken them both out. Both Alpines off into the wall. Fake Scouser's out of the Grand Prix. Pimis has fallen down the order. And that is a nightmare for Alpine. Rule number 1 of racing, don't take out your teammate. And that is exactly what has happened there. Exactly whose fault that was, well, I'm not too sure. The stewards will have a look after the race, that is for sure. DRS has been enabled. Pimis goes for a spin. And Butzells has become the latest to make a mistake. He goes off at the final corner. I think has he chipped off some front wing? Can't really see. I don't think he had. I think he's got away with it. But that is a mistake that sends it down to P14. And, well, yeah, tough one. You could argue that maybe Pimis was fighting a position that wasn't there. You could argue that Fake Scouser didn't leave his teammate enough space on the outside. Either way, that is both Alpine drivers, well, kind of out of the running at the moment. Pimis is on for a point right now, finishing in P15, but certainly not as many points as he would have wanted to. Here then comes Lorenzo. This is a battle for position between these two, most certainly. As to the outside goes Lorenzo, going in towards turn 9. Kaizen defends the inside. Can Lorenzo hold it? He can, but so can Kaizen. And it's once again wheel to wheel through 10, 11 and 12. On the inside is Lorenzo. On the outside is Kaizen, who still holds on. Going into turn 13 and gets ahead. Back ahead of Lorenzo. Brilliant racing between those two as they contest the lead of the race. BV just behind, looking menacing for Red Bull. What Becco would love is for all three of these drivers to tangle and take each other out. Carlos would love that too. Here comes Lorenzo. Oh, looking at the inside of turn 1. Doesn't quite get ahead. That's compromised his run though, slightly through turn 1, with BV looking hungry, having a peek at getting ahead of the AlphaTauri driver. Pimis gets a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings for Alpine. I don't think he was penalised for the contact with his teammate. Mystery, I think, has made a mistake somewhere. We'll check in with that in a moment, because here comes Lorenzo down towards turn 6, looking to get back ahead again of... no, doesn't get ahead of Kaizen. He'll wait for DRS on the second attempt. As he exits turn 7, he knows that if he gets past into turn 6, he's vulnerable to being repassed. Going down towards turn 9. So here comes Lorenzo again. In towards turn 9 we go. Is he going to try and swoop back underneath? BV's going to take advantage of that. Dive down the inside of the AlphaTauri. Lorenzo saw it coming. Gave the Red Bull space. And he stays in front of him. Nook Headley is passed by Jack Bowie as they head in to turn 9, and that is Pimis out of the session for Alpine. The Alpine driver bringing his car into the pits and retiring from this race. So both Alpines out after that incident between them on the exit of turn 9 a little bit earlier on. It's a real shame that, because they were both running well and they were both having a really good battle in that midfield. In the end, the battle just became a little bit too dicey, and that's both of those drivers now out of the race. Lorenzo, 0.5 of a second down on Kaizen as they head down towards turn 6. BB's close here to Lorenzo. Becco's been brought right back in as well by this battling. BV stays behind. Carlos is being dragged along also in the Mercedes, the championship leader, of course, coming into tonight. It's a good exit from Becco out of turn 7 as he has a look at getting past BV down towards turn 9. Has he got enough here to pass the Red Bull? No, he doesn't. BV breaks late, stays in front. Carlos is also... He's very close, isn't he, to Becco? But again, he's on medium tyres. I think he has to stop again. Does Carlos, unless he was one of those that started on the hards at the start of this Grand Prix, but sells in to 11th position for Haas as he gets past Nivi. Of course, Lorenzo stopping again is it's not a requisite. He doesn't need to do it. He started this race on the hard, so he can go to the end if he wants to, or if he's physically able to take those tyres to the end. It's not like Kaizen has to stop again, and so does Lorenzo. Oh, BB's out. What has happened to BV? Not too sure, but I think that's another safety car deployed. Oh, he's lost it on the exit of turn 1 and got into the wall, and that's going to be another safety car. And this is kind of what we saw last week as well. We got one safety car, and one safety car seems to breed another safety car not long afterwards, and that's the second one we've had today with just over 10 laps to go of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now what this does do is it massively lends a hand to Kaizen, who can pit again and not lose anywhere near as much time as he would have done. And it probably is a chance now for Lorenzo to box again. Probably for Becco as well, because I don't think he wants to be on the hard tyres when everybody else pits on to a better set of tyres. So I would imagine here this is going to be a really good chance for multiple drivers to make their way into the pits and get onto some better tyres here. Can the softs make it? Maybe. I think by the time the race restarts, the softs probably can make it. And you have to factor in as well the fact that it's very possible that we'll get more safety cars, because, again, as we saw in Spa last week, we had safety car after safety car after safety car. Once one safety car came out, it was just so many safety cars from that point on. So I would imagine that that's what we're going to be seeing between now and the end. I hope not, but by logic, you might think that would be the case. Into the pits then come the leaders: Kaizen, Lorenzo, Becco, Carlos, Jay Hartnell, Swinny. Will Jack Bowie pit? Rebel, yes he does. Nokedley comes in behind him, and Bahandro also in, as is Butzells. Nivi in as well. Mystery pits behind him, and Matty G, as he makes his way in towards the final corner, will stay out on the racetrack. So that is Matty G remaining out there. He'll claim some positions. I think he'd just rather have track position now than, I guess, be on better tyres, just because he's obviously down the order and wants to give himself some sort of a chance at getting a good result. Who's that gone off? It's Lorenzo and Becco, and they've taken each other out under the safety car. Absolutely unbelievable. Lorenzo and Becco, as they came out of the pits, have made contact, and they've wiped each other out of this race. I can safely say I've never seen that before under a safety car, and I've seen a lot in league racing. We all have. That's unbelievable. The safety car's out, they've just come out of the pits, and right out of the pits they've hit each other and taken each other out of the race. That is absolutely bizarre. Between Lorenzo and Becco, and two drivers who were very much in contention for the win, find themselves not scoring any points at all this evening because they've made contact and they've crashed each other out in a bizarre and spectacular and farcical, chaotic manner. And that all leaves Kaizen with Carlos and Jay Hartnell behind him. Jay Hartnell started this race in P17 after spinning all over the place in qualifying, and he's now up in P3 is the Haas on fresh mediums as well. Kaizen's gone onto hards because of the fact that he had to use two compounds. But what I'm thinking there is, surely he could have gone for softs, could he not? Unless he didn't have any softs left at his disposal, which I'd find difficult to believe that he didn't. So surely he should have gone for soft tyres there, Kaizen, in the Aston Martin. Either way, he is on hards for the final few laps of this race, but that's just remarkable stuff here. We were probably about to get Kaizen, Lorenzo, Becco, Carlos, maybe Jay Hartnell in this 5-way battle for the win. That has now become maybe a 3 or 4-way battle because Lorenzo and Becco have just wiped each other out. It was down towards turn 5 that they've made contact. I can only imagine that they were weaving and they ended up side by side. They didn't really understand what each other were doing, and they've made contact and out they both go, but it doesn't really excuse it in the sense of that is an unbelievably frustrating way for both of them to end up out of the Grand Prix. And it has stripped them of the chance to win a race tonight. Becco, who has now been on pole 3 times this season, still yet to win. It's his second non-finish of the season. He's got as many points finishes in the opening 4 rounds. Yeah, not really too sure what else to say, to be honest, about that. A very peculiar way for this race to end for those two. One thing I am thinking with Kaizen and with Swinny as well, and Nivi also, is that potentially they've become victim of the rule, which I didn't actually know was in place anymore, that you have to use your qualifying tyre and then you have to use a race tyre as well, and the race tyre is denoted as the harder of the alternative compounds that you have to use in the race. And so the harder of the alternative compounds in this case for Kaizen would have been the hard tyres, as opposed to the softs, which is technically a qualifying tyre and not a mandatory tyre. That's the only reason I can assume that he's gone into hards, apart from the fact that he might have run out of soft tyres. But I was pretty sure that rule had been abolished. I need to look back through the rules and regulations of Formula 1 for that one. But yeah, well, I'll try and get that one looked up. Either way, Kaizen's gone for it. And well, Carlos has gone right with him here for Mercedes. It's been a really good restart from Carlos. Look at that. In towards turn 1. Down the inside he goes, but he gets caught up on the inside and then he spins. And, well, it was looking like a really good restart for Carlos, but probably, in the end, just gave himself a little bit too much work to do on the inside. He's now rejoined with Nivi as they make their way through turns 4 and in towards 5. And Carlos stays in front in 10th position. It's a shame that, because it was a fantastic getaway from Carlos on the initial restart, and then into turn 1, realised that Kaizen had the better run on the outside. He got pinched on the inside, and unfortunately that was all she wrote for his chances, I would say, of winning this Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Butsells and Ed Behandra are going side by side. We've also got a battle between Jack Bowie and Nokedli for 5th position. Through turn 8, in towards turn 9 we go. Jack just behind, Matty G behind them. Nokedli being challenged here by Butsells as they go through turn 9. So really good overtake that from Butsells. Fantastic move from the Haas. Really well done. Oh, and a little bit of late braking for Behandra, who keeps the car on the racetrack behind Nokedli. Super move that from Butsells to move up into P6. Brilliant stuff. Swinney in P3 now behind Jay Hartnell, but he does have a penalty to Swinney, which could be important come the end of this race. Matty G is needing a massive train here of cars. Remember, he is on 12-lap old hard tyres. He decided not to pit under that last safety car. Wanted to give himself track position rather than choosing fresh tyres, just because he wanted to just be further up the grid. And he's going to try and hang on to this position here. If he does, it's a brilliant drive. But he's got a lot of laps to go here on what are already very worn hard tyres, I should imagine, or relatively worn hard tyres for Matty G. And they will be very warm by the end of the race, you would imagine. Here comes Jack Bowie, though, down towards turn 6. There's no DRS yet. That gets enabled next lap. And Jack Bowie stays behind for the time being. He'll try and take advantage of a mistake. Oh, there is the mistake from Matty G. He loses the back end on the exit of turn 7 and spins down to the back of the order as a result. And, well, it was looking like a really good drive so far, but unfortunately for Matty G, that's all gone away just through one mistake. The tyres were so old. They had so little grip, those rears, and unfortunately it was just difficult to keep hold of that car for Matty G, who falls into 11th as a result. Jay Hartnell right behind Kaizen now He's under a lot of pressure here, the Aston Martin, because he is on hard tyres. Jay Hartnell, this is going to be one of the drives of the season, surely, if he can win this race from 17th on the grid. It was a brilliant drive in Austria as well. He was on for a podium before a really, really unfortunate spin at the end of that one. And here, on 4 lap hole mediums, it's not the mammoth stint that he was on in Austria before he span, but it is a really good recovery from 17th here for the Haas. And he looks on at the moment to win this Grand Prix with Kaizen on theoretically worse tyres. Swinney is in this battle, but is he in the conversation for the win with his penalty? He might be if the top 2 get penalties, that's for sure. Down towards turn 6 we go. Jay Hartnell doesn't look at the inside just yet. Behind there, Bahandra and Kedley are going wheel to wheel again. Kedley is in front of the Alpha Tower as they head through turn 6, but on the exit through turn 8 and then in towards 9, he's going to have a go back. And Kaizen, I think, has lost the lead to Jay Hartnell. Has he? He defends the inside. And, oh, it's a spin for Sweet behind him in the Alfa Romeo. He hits the wall. He's going to lose so many places as a result of that. He'll fall behind Nivi. Will he fall behind Matty G as well in the Williams? I don't think he will. I think he'll recover just in time. But that for Sweaty is that is him, unfortunately, out of the running for the win. Meanwhile, there's more spinning action going on because Bahandro has gone off the circuit, as has Mystery for Alfa Romeo. Those two have collided at turn 14 and ended up falling down the pack. And so that's them in a real bit of trouble, having been battling away in the midfield. Mystery's out of the race. That leaves us with 10 runners remaining in this Grand Prix. Carlos is into the pits as well now for Mercedes. So, yeah, that's his chances. Well, his chances of a win were already gone, to be fair, after that spin. He now has changed his front wing, so I think he got caught up in amongst all of that carnage as well. Jay Hartnell is not going to have a look at Kaizen yet because we have got, would you believe it, another safety car in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And this is what we, this is what I was saying. Once you get one safety car, they all just keep coming after that because of the fact that you're racing so closely on the restart, and naturally you end up side by side. It's contact. Drivers end up at the race in the wall, and that then is a safety car as a result of that. So yeah, safety cars do breed safety cars, especially in this game, and this is another example of it, and we saw an example of it in Spa last time out as well. 139.2, by the way, is the lap record at this racetrack, and that actually is held jointly by both Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton. They both set that lap time in 2019, and they still hold it to this day. Identical, 139.283. The same lap time, which is super impressive, and they still hold that one. As out of the pits then comes Kaizen. So this is all very interesting because Jack Bowie's remained out there, but Sells has remained out there, as has Nivi. So those three are now the current podium finishers. Nivi scored a podium in Monaco earlier on this season. Jack Bowie has 2 podiums, one of them in Monaco, the other one coming last week in Belgium, either side of a bit of a disappointing Austrian Grand Prix for him. I think he will probably have to admit, and but Sells had a really good showing actually in Spa last time out for Haas. Really put himself on the map with some superb racing from him, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of that as the season progresses, and we might see more of it, we surely will, in the latter stages of this race also. As the safety car brings us round for the 3rd time in this race. 4 laps to go after this one is complete, and well, it's difficult to tell really. Are we going to have another one of the safety car between now and the end? I don't think we will, because I think we'll just run out of time for a safety car to be deployed. I think if there's a crash with like a lap to go, I think that then makes it a little bit more difficult for the safety car to come out and then go back in again. So I would hope that this will be the last safety car of the Grand Prix, but you never do know. With Butsel's second at the moment behind Jack Bowie, second last time in Spa on the racetrack, to claim his first podium of the season so far, on for his second in as many races. Managing to outrace Jay Hartnell as well in the other Haas that night. Jay Hartnell finished fourth. It was a really good day for Haas in Spa. And they're on for another pretty good one here. Second and fifth at the moment. And Jay Hartnell is on fresh softs as well. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. So it's been flipped, basically. These three drivers now out front, but they've got older tyres. They've chosen to try and defend it. And the smart thing for Jack Bowie there is that he's got two drivers behind him who are on old mediums and old hards for Butsells and Nivy respectively, and he's going to be hoping that they can hold up Kaizen and Jay Hartnell and Swinney enough that he can essentially just kind of use them as a shield, throw those cars back at the competition and try and escape down the road to get his first win of Season 7. He was close in Monaco in round 1, very close to the back of Jay Hartnell in the dying moments of the Monaco Grand Prix. Did really well to recover back up and make the gains, but wasn't quite enough in the end. We are going to have 3 laps of green flag running behind, or after this safety car comes back into the pits. So Jack Bowie is going to, for the first time, choose his spot as to when he wants to go for it. We saw Kaizen send it pretty much right on the exit of the final corner last time. Didn't serve him too well on the initial restart, but Carlos in the end just got pinched at turn 1 and span round. He now is in P7, potentially in contention for a podium. It depends what happens in the final few laps of this race. And for Jack Bowie here, who actually was down the order after lap 1 after losing his entire front wing, now restarts this race in the lead as he rounds the final corner ahead of Butsells in the Haas. And away we go again. Good restart again from Carlos. And again he's looking to get side by side with Swinney this time around the outside of turn 1. And he's going to hold that in towards turn 2. Can he keep himself there? There's a little bit of contact, I believe, as they head in towards 3 and 4. And Swinney just about stays in front of the Mercedes. Carlos, though, will try and take advantage of that mistake from Swinney, and he does. There's more contact between them as they head on to the back straight. Meanwhile, Kaizen is having a look at Nivy, and he's got Jay Hartnell right behind him, and Butsells is pressuring Jack Bowie for the lead. Carlos now goes down the inside of Jay Hartnell into turn 6. Does he get in front? Oh, Jay Hartnell's made contact. He's lost positions as a result. Swinney has to hold on to the back end as he gets side by side, and Jay Hartnell is in danger of being swallowed up by the drivers behind him because of all of that. Carlos now to the outside as he battles away with Swinney and with Kaizen, I should say. Kaizen stays in front. Matty G has ended up in P10. I think he's made a mistake somewhere or been spun off or whatever's happened. There was a yellow flag momentarily. That's now gone back in again. Kaizen remains in front of Carlos and remains behind Nivy, which is really good news for Jack Bowie, but he is under pressure at the moment from Butsells. Hasn't quite shaken off the Haas yet. He would love to be a second in front of him by the time they head on to the final lap. It looks very much here, though, as though Jack Bowie is about to take the win, because he is on soft tyres. They are a bit fresher and softer and grippier as a result, you would think, than Butsells' tyres, but you never know how quickly those softs have fallen off. And Kaizen has lost his front wing. He's had contact somewhere, and as a result of that, Nivy's going to be pushed a little bit wide in the Williams. Swinney will now take advantage, and he will surely fly past the Aston Martin down the back. I mean, Kaizen's got really good straight line speed, but he's going to sail off the track surely at turn 6. There you go. If he breaks at the normal rate, he is surely going to run wide. Somehow keeps the car on the racetrack. Does Kaizen. Swinney still battling away with Jay Hartnell. Behind them, we have got Nivi and Empahandro going side by side. Kaizen will surely lose a position. In fact, Swinney's lost out to Jay Hartnell. And Kaizen still keeps the car on the racetrack through turn 9. This is heroic stuff from Kaizen. How he's keeping that Aston Martin there, I don't know. Still ahead of Swinney. Still ahead of Jay Hartnell. And Jay Hartnell to the outside. Off the track goes Kaizen a little bit, but he manages to recover. Still keeps it on the road. He's not going to try and go to the end, is he, like this? As they head in towards the final couple of corners of lap 28. Does Kaizen pit? Does he stay out? You know what? Kaizen's going to stay out. And he's going to try and survive without a front wing on his car and try and take 4th place. But surely he's going to lose it. Yes, he is. Jay Hartnell gets ahead going into turn 1. This is remarkable stuff for Kaizen here. Meanwhile, out front, Jack Bowie has started the final lap of the Grand Prix. Kaizen now, through the very quick opening sector, has lost out to Swinney, and he'll surely lose out to Empahandro as well. He goes to the inside. Empahandro dives past him. Does he? No, he doesn't. There's a bit of contact, though. And that brings Kedley into play in the McLaren. He gets ahead of Empahandro as a result of that. He goes way off the track, trying to pass Kaizen. Has to come back on again and slip back into the slipstream of the Aston Martin. And down the inside goes Kedley. And there's a little bit of contact. Is there? No, they avoid it. Empahandro cuts back underneath. Nivi's involved in the battle as well. And as they head in towards turn 8, it's going to be a 3-way battle in towards the braking zone of 9. Kedley on the outside. Kaizen in the middle. Does Empahandro dive to the inside? No, he doesn't. And Kedley now finds himself battling with the AlphaTauri of Empahandro. He goes a little bit wide on the exit of turn 9. Kaizen somehow remains in front of them without his front wing on the car. And he keeps it on the road through turn 12 as well. Meanwhile, out front, Jack Bowie is going to hold off Butzel's just about to win the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Gets his first win of the season. Carlos in P3. Jay Hartnell takes home 4th. Swinney finishes 5th on track. Kedley ends up 9th because of the penalty applied to him. Kaizen makes it to the end in his stricken Aston Martin. Somehow, after losing his entire front wing. Remarkable stuff from him. But it's Jack Bowie who gets his opening win of Season 7. Well, it was another difficult one to keep track of towards the end. Safety cars really playing a massive part in the end result. Jack Bowie took advantage of his strategy, stayed out at the end whilst others pitted, and it paid off for him. And he stands on the top step of the podium as our 4th winner in 4 races in Season 7 in Tier 2 of the Formula Racing League, as this fantastic championship battle continues. Well, what a race we witnessed tonight. Jack Bowie takes the win. 2/10, just about, takes the win from Butzel's. Carlos in P3 for Mercedes. Butzel's got the fastest lap for Haas. Swinney in P5. Kaizen in P6 for Aston Martin. How on earth he kept his car on the road, I do not know. Empahandro takes P7 for AlphaTauri. Nivi in P8. Kedley ends up in 9th after his penalties were applied. And Matty G will end up being the final points finisher in 10th because Mistry, Lorenzo, Becco, BV and Pimis all ended up out of the Grand Prix, along with Fake Scouser and Dreamer in the McLaren. We will be back live with all the action for round number 5 of the season when we arrive at the Portuguese Grand Prix in Portimao. Another fantastic evening of racing tonight. My voice just about survived it as well, which is always a positive. And will we get a 5th winner in 5 races when we get to the next race next Tuesday night in Portugal? We'll find out after another chaotic evening of action It's another Grand Prix winner in Tier 2, and this championship battle takes its latest twist. And that's it from us tonight. We'll be back next Tuesday evening for the Portuguese Grand Prix. Until then, take good care of yourselves and good night.